So, gentlemen, welcome to the Red Chair, and the first in the US, and on a special location, the Strip in Las Vegas. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great to be here.
So, it's all about CCW, the expo, and that's about contact centers, right? So, but I must be honest, last week I had a quite bad experience with the contact center. I tried to rebook a flight. It took me 7 days and 4 different agents, and I had to tell my story over and over and over again. Now, you guys, ZaiLab is all about rewarding conversation. So how are you going to change this experience people have?
I think, Dominique, it's very important what you've just stated, and I think this is why we are here today and here this week. And that's why we have events like this and expos like this where, everybody congregates together to try and alleviate this problem that we're currently experiencing. You're not the first, you're not the last, and I think we see this on a daily basis, and it's going to continue happening. Software providers like ourselves, as ZaiLab, we're obviously trying, every day to try and, negate this problem of, having to repeat yourself to probably 3 or 4 people and trying to get that first call resolution. It's taken you, as you mentioned, a week and having to speak to 4 different people. However, that problem can be easily alleviated and negated by utilizing the correct piece of software. And I think this is where ZaiLab has actually put in a lot of development hours and years to develop, an application where you can actually do that with our algorithm and our application, by having that single view of the customer and that single conversation, that should never have happened. And I think, this is where, what we're striving towards and what we're going to be showcasing here in Las Vegas, and obviously with our peers, colleagues, and competitors. We want our competitors to see what we're doing and how we're actually getting to that stage, because everybody's seeing this sort of rainbow, and everyone's trying to get to the end of this rainbow to get that pot of gold. But as they start moving towards that rainbow, you're never going to come to see that pot of gold. And I think this is the challenge that, we're all seeing. But I think we're very close to it. I'm not saying we're going to perfect it, but I think we're going to be better than where we were last week. And we'll be better the following week that we will be the next week. And that's how we'll see it. Michael, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you've said. The piece that I would add to that also is, our unique announcement that's happening here in Las Vegas with our pairing with VoiceBase. I think the rewarding conversation comes from the fact that an agent will be able to see where they are at any given point during the conversation, and will learn how important that is to structure the call and be able to see where they are in that call at any given point in terms of a positive outcome. So rewarding conversations, positive conversations, and great outcomes, that's what we're looking forward to here in Las Vegas.
I was invited to the Zai truck. I must say, an amazing journey we had. We visited some contact centers, and one in Atlanta was quite interesting. What I saw was different agents working on different platforms and different channels. So one was for chat, one was for email, for voice. It looked more like a Frankenstein model, very complex. Has ZaiLab an answer to this problem?
I would say that the reason that we do have a great outcome from this type of problem that you're seeing is, again, you'll notice we come from a blank sheet of paper. And because of that, everything we develop is done from the ground up without the encumbrances of prior technologies and add-ons and buys and companies coming together to where you do create that Frankenstein monster. And when you're able to build software and have the outcome that you want, it's much more integrated and cohesive, and so therefore you get less of that issue that you'd get by cobbling things together and having just one smooth platform. So yes, we can do that.
Yeah, I think the analogy that I like to use, Michael, is if I take a shoebox, and I always see this in businesses, and I think we saw it very clearly with that contact center that we saw in Atlanta, is that they take a whole lot of bespoke technologies and they put them together into this box and they display it as a single platform. But when you open up this black box, as I call it, you find all these little different pieces in there, and this is exactly what we saw. But I think it goes a little bit beyond that. Technology is one component, but then you've got to look at the people and the processes that are put into place as well. And in this particular example that you were referring to, Dominique, it's the way that the processes that they had individual agents looking after individual channels, which is one avenue to take for businesses. I don't believe it's the ideal one. It's always good to have multi-skilled agents in that regard. But the reason why they probably are structured that way, and the reason why they're doing it, is because they don't have the technology to be able to enable them to have that sort of multimedia capability on one platform.
Another thing that I saw was that some of these contact centers have a high volume, for example, during the holidays. A lot of people call in, but then a few weeks later it slows down. But they're bound to a contract, 4 years, 2 years. Has ZaiLab a solution to this problem? Because I think it's really not very flexible, and it's very costly for some of these contact centers.
I think, if you see business how it's evolved over the last couple of years, with 24/7 coming into account, there's no more an 8 to 5 business in this world. As much as people might believe that that's still the case, it's not. 24/7 is here to stay. Businesses are servicing customers around the globe. So even though it's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon in Pacific time, it's midnight somewhere else, and it's probably morning somewhere else. So people still want to contact your organization. And I think this is very important, in those sort of peaks and troughs, never mind just during the day, but also during certain periods of the year, for sort of Christmas time, where, gifts, cards and those kind of things, are at high demand and at a peak. How do you, start, having technology to be able to complement, those usage patterns? I think this is where, ZaiLab's software is key, with regards to our flexibility and scalability, where, you can create as many agents as you want, whenever you want, and the only time that they will start being charged is when there's actual business value, in the sense of talk time and using, the functionality that actually goes with it. So, people are not sort of caught into the trap of having to be bound into a contract or a sort of term contract or any sort of monthly minimum amount that they need to spend. Michael, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I think where we really differ in that fact is, you're not bound to anything, but there's no setup fees. There's no long-term contracts. There's no licensing. It's a matter of use what you want when you want to use it, and we're only going to charge you at that point. This is very typical of companies that are really in the high end of enterprise that try to drive these types of behaviors, and they're also very costly, typically. And it takes years for that to be driven down into the small and mid-size arrangements for contact centers and those companies that need to enjoy that as well. The difference between us and our competitors are, not only do we have it now, but we have it at a very, very reasonable cost that works extremely well and can be used by the smallest companies to the largest companies. And that's not typically what happens in business, and we're ready to do that today.
A last question, gentlemen, is all about the partnership with VoiceBase. Is this now going to be the killer feature of the software?
Well, I think it is a killer feature. I think it's one of the killer features. And I think that there's so many things that we're doing well that it's hard to just pinpoint one thing. When you look at consumption-based, and you look at a single waiting room, and you look at the voice analytics through something like VoiceBase and the ability to monitor conversations, I think when you put that all together, it gives you one major contact center platform that really just knocks out the competition. I heard something this week that I think really, really kind of hit a nerve with me in terms of how someone described us, and that is we're radicals in this space, and we're radically different, and we're not going to take this status quo as the way of doing business. So yes, VoiceBase is very important along with everything else we've done, and I think that the US and the world in general better be ready, because they're going to see something radically different from us.
Absolutely, I totally agree with Michael there, Dominique. If you look at the relationship that we have now built with VoiceBase and the sort of enhancement that we're doing on the offering, I think it's just one piece. I think there's lots to come. I think this is an important piece, for business, and it's all going to be unveiled here this week. So we don't want to sort of release too much on that. But I think, for those people that are in Vegas that are going to be here at the show, please come past to our stand, see the unveiling, see what you can actually get from ZaiLab's software and how it will maximize revenue for your business and how it will actually revolutionize your business as well.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.